Hello and welcome to the Golden Waffles. Today we've got an interesting little game called Apprentice by Amazu Media. It's a single player story game with turn-based combat and elements of point and click adventure. And while that doesn't sound overly unique, I've honestly never played a game quite like this. The story is presented in this animated comic book style, and it just thoroughly impressed me with how effective this was. The art itself is reasonable, it can sometimes feel a little unpolished, but that is a style that they've really embraced, and it's the simple additions of the animations to the text and the minor actions that actually happen within the comic book panels that honestly felt really revolutionary and added to the immersion of the game. I'm a bit of a comic book fan myself, and I always find myself reading them on these terrible little e-readers on my phone or on my computer. But if any of the big comic book distributors just put out a game in this style, then it would just be a total market changer. Inserted into the comic book story are occasional point and click puzzles that you have to solve by finding items or pulling levers. This helps provide occasional breaks from reading text, however it doesn't really provide any sort of challenge. One use for this is to put some control back in the player's hands. Occasionally you'll have to make a small decision that can impact the story or unlock different abilities depending on what you pick. So it might just be, do you pull a lever and destroy something, or do you leave it be? As with any good adventure, you can expect your fair share of battles. The combat is turn-based, with each character having unique abilities and some fairly simple stats. The interesting part of the combat is the integration of little mini-games with each spell that you cast. For example, when you cast your healing spell, loads of stars will appear on the screen, and then you've got a certain amount of time to collect as many of them as you can, and the amount you heal will be based on the amount of stars you manage to collect. At first, this feels like quite an endearing addition to what is otherwise a fairly basic combat system. However, with the high frequency of battles that you will often push through using the exact same tactics every time, the minigames start to feel like an irritation. The only time I really felt that they added something later into the game was when I was fighting hard boss battles, and actually the minigame was important because if I did poorly in the minigame, then I probably wasn't going to win the fight. As you progress through the story and you do win fights, your units will level up and they will get a little bit stronger. You can also pick up items that you can equip your characters with that will slightly increase their stats. One of the ways to find these items is by playing the secondary game mode. Here you can revisit old enemies from older quests and fight them on increased difficulties. This provides players a chance to really test their skills and gives them kind of an area where they can farm experience and continue to level up their characters. This additional game mode is also presented with this just really cool little redesigned tabletop version of the map, and this little cute doll that you can throw around and drag and drop onto the missions that you want to play. It's just a simple addition, but I really enjoyed it. The story itself is about protecting the Earth. You'll find there are a lot of life lessons pushed upon you during the story, such as fracking is bad, as is being greedy and taking from the poor. This, combined with the minigame battles and the overly simple puzzles, makes the game feel like I simply wasn't the target audience. I think the target market is more likely children, and I think this game would be absolutely fantastic for them. However, if you have found yourself interested based on the footage in this video, then I would definitely check it out. It's almost worth picking up just for the amazing comic book style. As always guys, there's a link to the game in the description below. If this has been helpful, click that like button, and if you'd like to see more reviews like this in the future, please subscribe.